We're going to switch gears. Joining me now is Congressman Jason Smith of Missouri. And Jason Smith, a great friend of mine and this show, is now the chair of the very powerful House Ways and Means Committee. Jason, I want to talk about making the Trump tax cuts permanent. But first, will you just listen to our friend Art Laffer for just a few seconds? Hang on while we play this sound.
In the 2 years following President Trump's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, tax revenues, total tax revenues, federal, state, and local, increased by $400 billion, way more than they had in the previous 2 years. And federal tax revenues increased by $240 billion. And if you extended that over a 10-year period, which is how you're supposed to measure this, they would have reduced the deficit by maybe $1 trillion.
All right, so the Laffer curve worked. Better growth, less tax avoidance, lower tax rates, increased tax revenues. So, Jason Smith, first of all, congrats on being Ways and Means Chair. And second of all, I'm just curious, are you considering or will you consider in your regular order process making the Trump tax cuts permanent? Because, as you know, they're phasing out. First, the depreciation is phasing out, and then eventually the rate reduction. Can you help us on this? What are you thinking, Jason?
You know, thanks, Larry. It's always great to be with you, and I couldn't agree more with Art. If you look at what happened right after we passed the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act, we saw the best economy in a generation. It was the lowest unemployment in 50 years. Wages grew for working class Americans. Less people were in poverty. It worked. In fact, every CBO score, every calculation, revenues were much higher than whatever was predicted. In fact, just this past year, we saw the highest amount of revenues ever in the history of the country at $4.9 trillion. And it's a result of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. Larry, what I want to do as chairman of the Ways and Means Committee is to have hearings all over this country where small businesses, farmers, and Americans can talk to us about the provisions that were in the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, what provisions that were very, very successful, and maybe what provisions might need to be tweaked to make them better, to help grow this economy, grow wages, and reduce poverty. You know,
I've always felt that's a good point there. It wasn't the most perfect bill. It was a good bill. It was a pro-growth bill, but we could build on it. I think the individual tax cuts could be built on. I think the corporate tax cuts, I think the small business portions, Jason, could be built upon too, to, help growth. The Bidens are attacking large businesses, small businesses, the gig economy, things of that sort. So I just wondered, as you go through your own regular order in the budget, with or without the debt ceiling, you'll consider this aspect of it, keeping the tax cuts or making them better.
You bet we will. But also, I want to look at other provisions that help strengthen our strategic supply chains when it comes to making sure that our country has energy independence, making sure that our country is secured when it comes to our food supply and also the medical supply. We need to use the tax code and trade policies to make sure that we strengthen those supply chains right here at home. That needs to be included as well, Larry. We got a lot of work to do, and the Republicans are going to deliver.
So basically, what's sometimes called onshoring, you're looking at onshoring policies.
That's what makes America strong. We're a nation that can grow with manufacturing. We're a nation that can grow if we use our own resources and not be dependent on countries like China. We need to make sure that we can sustain our own strategic supply chains, and if we cannot have them here, they need to be with our allies.
So just to sum up, and I know you're early in your process, I understand that, but you are in fact looking at the tax cut portion of the budget resolution.
You bet I am.
All right, pro-growth. Jason Smith has a nice sound to it. Chairman, Ways and Means Committee. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right.